Good morning, my friends. How are you? Mad Jack. Show it. There we go. Mad Jack, good morning, buddy. How are you? My name is Mike Avery. I'm here, back here in the Outdoor Magazine radio studio to record this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. Working with a new system. Cliff, good morning. Paul, how are you? Hello, Joel. Nice to have you along with us. A crisp October morning. Almost the end of the month now, isn't it? November coming up this weekend. Saturday is November 1st, right? Good morning, JT. Nice to have you along with us, buddy. How is my video? Is it smooth or is it jumping around? It looks a little jumpy on my end, but I'm using a new program that lets me use my phone as my camera. So it appears to be a little bit wonky. Tommy, good morning. How are you? I saw your email. I don't know anything about the 360 buck hammer. When I left that out of the conversation last week, that was a mistake on my part. I should have included it. It was an oversight. Anybody know anything about the 360 buck hammer? That's the one you wanted to know about, right, Tommy? There, it looks like my camera has sound is slightly delayed on your phone. It's jumpy on YouTube. Okay, good to know. I'm trying to connect my phone to my laptop wirelessly, and I think I'd be better off to plug it in. I'm not going to mess with it now because if I do it now, it'll freeze everything up. I tried to plug it in just before I went live, and it froze up. So I don't want to do that now, but I will work on that tonight. Renee, good morning. How are you? Paul says, another weekend of hunting, still didn't see anything. I haven't seen anything yet, Paul. That's about to change. Chris says it is a cold, wet, high wind morning in Kansas, which means it's coming our direction. Whatever Chris has in Kansas, we can expect to see in the next day and a half. TJ, good morning. How are you? Brandon checking in from Lake St. Clair. Lake St. Clair for perch, walleye, and muskie is on fire. Detroit River, shallow has been good. Thank you, Brandon. Again, Joel says the sound is slightly delayed on his phone. Mad Jack says jumpy on YouTube. Tommy says yes. JT says a little misaligned audio and video. Tommy says he got one so he could hunt downstate, but also hunt here in the northern. I think you're going to be very happy with that 360. I don't know anybody who has hunted with a straight-walled cartridge and didn't enjoy it. They're like the real deal. I mean, they're the real thing, right? Greg, good morning, buddy. How are you? Paul says, but they come into the food plots as soon as you're gone for the weekend. Which means they've got you patterned, right, Paul? Which means they know you're coming in there. So how do you address that? And that's a question I have to deal with as well. How do you address that? Gene, good morning. Any word on the Apex sale? Ken, good morning, buddy. My youngest son has his best luck hunting in the drizzly rain. Rocky, good morning, buddy. How are you? Thanks for joining me on this edition of Behind the Mic. On a midweek as we go into Halloween Friday, November 1st, Saturday, time change this weekend, so don't let that one bite you. Uncle Johnny, how are you? Paul says maybe try the other food plot or hunt between them. Ross says, I know who's on the show. Well, one of them. Let me see who Ross will be doing. Scott or Nick? Or Dixie Dave? Who is it, Ross? How have you peeked through the internet gone onto Google Drive and seen my rundown for this week. How have you done that? Bud, good morning. 3 potentials. Good luck with that. Jay says, good morning. Yard close-up day today so I can spend more time in the woods. Jay, in reference to your email, and I won't go into details here because I don't have your permission to do so. I was going to do this yesterday, and I got tied up on something, and to be honest with you, I kind of forgot about it. I'm going to reach out to somebody at Jay's. In fact, I'm going to reach out to Kevin there, who is the archery manager at Jay's, and see if he has any insight into that issue that you and I were talking about. I like to support every Michigan company that I can. But that particular company does have a reputation of putting out product that is not necessarily top quality in that category. Scott, okay. Ron, good morning. How are you? Paul says, what happened to the Sunshine Act to get rid of this stupid fall back? Spring forward, fall back, which means it gets light earlier. Spring forward, fall back. So instead of being 2 o'clock, it'll be 1 o'clock. Help me figure this out. So it's lighter in the morning. It gets light earlier in the morning, and it gets dark earlier in the evening. Yes. Chris said, hey, Facebook, let me know it's time to watch now. Listen, any problem you have with Facebook, I talk routinely with Zuckerberg. In fact, I have him in my contacts as Zuck. We talk all the time. So if you have a problem with Facebook, you just let me know, and I can talk with my friend Zuck, and we'll get it straightened out. Zuck and I talk all the time about why he wants to ban certain things and why he won't let me show bloody deer and why he doesn't want me to show guns or talk about guns. So Zuck and I are tight. So if you have a problem with Facebook, you let me know. I'll get it worked out. Jerry says 23 degrees in the Adirondacks. Everything is pure white. Excellent. Glad you're with us, Jerry. Steve, good morning. How are you? Jerry, nice to have you along with us. How was my weekend in the woods? I didn't get a chance to hunt Saturday because I was tied up, couldn't get out. I did hunt Sunday. It was absolutely beautiful. I was hunting in a spot where I was sure I would see deer, and I didn't. But that's hunting. It's going to get nothing but better now, though, over the next couple. Ross Elliott, I'm wishing Dart and Archery had a way I could get a crank for his Toxin crossbow. I'm missing hunting right now, but he can't pull the bow back yet. You better not be trying to pull a bow back, Ross. Or I'm gonna tattle on you and tell your doctors. And Ross, this is not a secret. I've talked about this before. This is the reason I'm not shooting a dart and crossbow anymore. I wanted a bow that you could cock with a crank, but more importantly, when I was done hunting, I wanted to be able to decock it easily with a crank. Darton didn't offer one. Darton doesn't offer one now. Ted told me a couple of years ago Darton had no plans to introduce a decocking crossbow. And I said, okay, reluctantly, Ted, then I'm going to have to move on to a different company. It appears to me from the outside, and I don't work with Darton anymore. I still have respect for Michigan-based Darton. And Ted Harpham, a good friend of mine. It appears that crossbows are not even on their radar anymore. I think if you look at the website, dartonarchery.com, you will see a bunch of compound bows, a bunch of vertical bows. But I think they only have one crossbow left in their rundown, I think. Randy. Ferris State plays Northern. Final home game. Go Dogs. How's the beaver doing in your pond? Well, Randy, I'm glad you asked. Right now in the pond, there are 6 traps set, waiting for those big rodents, and 1 live trap. Here's an interesting fact. if you have a situation where, say, your neighbors don't want you to use kill traps on a beaver and they want you to use a live trap, which I understand, in Michigan, it is illegal to relocate a beaver and let him go. The thinking is if you're trapping beavers out of a problem area and you take them somewhere else, you're just going to create another problem in a new area. So in Michigan, legally, even if you remove a beaver using a live trap, you still have to kill the animal. So what good did the live trap do you, other than PR? So yes, thank you, Randy, for asking. Right now there are 6 traps, 7 if you include the live trap, and I'm ready to have them gone. Ready to have them gone. When I first saw them out there, I thought, oh, this is cool. And I thought, oh, it's not so cool because they're going to cause problems. And they do. They're just doing what beavers do. I can see the hut, the home, the lodge from my backyard. And now they're piling up a bunch of sticks next to it. And the trapper who was at the house yesterday said, oh, that's their food supply. He said, they're hunkering down for the winter. They're here. So we need to get rid of them. Because some of those sticks in that food pile are trees from my backyard. Johnny Bowler, Bear Whisperer, how are you, my friend? I understand. Okay, Jay. Okay. Jay, can I mention details? If you give me the go-ahead, I'll mention what it is we're talking about, but not till you say okay. Brent, good morning. How are you? Thank you. He said, nice spot with WSGW. I was on with Charlie Rude earlier in the day. Well, like 10 minutes ago. Joe checking in from Germfast. How are you? Tim Binns, waiting for you, man. I wondered where you were. Ross said they don't have any at all when you check their website. Thinking it's time for me to change. I've called them 3 times and nobody answered. See, there's the deal right there. When Darton was a Michigan-based company, their customer support was second to none. You could take an old Darton SL50 into the shop and probably get it fixed. These days, not so much. I'll just make myself a note. These days, not so much. So, when I switched from Darton to something else, it happened to be a 10-point, I wasn't happy about it, but I had to. Mickey, how are you, my friend? Jim says he was listening to the radio, heard your interview, always enjoy your conversation. Thank you. Jay said that's fine by you. Okay, here's what happened. Jay Wodersky of Sturgeon for Tomorrow, Black Lake chapter, was at our golf outing, the 2nd annual Mike Avery Outdoors charity golf outing to benefit MUCC's youth camp at the West Branch Country Club. He won a Killer Instinct crossbow. Now, Killer Instinct is a Michigan-based company. Killer Instinct doesn't have they have a reputation for a very affordable crossbow, but their reputation is not that it is the most robust crossbow. And I hate to say that, but look on the internet. It's not me. It's I've never owned one. I'm just going by what people say. So Jay used his. I think he used his for his bear hunt, no problems. His wife took it out to use on a deer hunt, and one of the limbs blew up, exploded. Now, I don't think she was hurt, Jay, so thank God for that. But he asked, and he said he tried to call the company, and he said, well, that bow's out of warranty. That's what I hear you're going to get from Killer Instinct, unfortunately. And I've made that comment before, and a lot of people came back on here and said, look, I have a Killer Instinct. I've had it for years and had no problems. Good. Excellent. Right there, Emil's one of them. He says, I have a Killer Instinct, and I love it. So if your bow is holding up and it's working great for you, excellent. A Michigan-based company. Tim says the bucks are chasing does up there. I'm glad to hear that, Emil, and I'm glad that somebody posted it, and I'm glad it was you. If somebody has a Killer Instinct and it's working out for you, then shoot the hell out of it, enjoy it, and go harvest things. Because I am a fan of a Michigan company. I will choose a Michigan-based company any day of the week. Okay, so November's coming up. The rut is coming up. You know what, Ross? I don't know what the warranty is on that 10-point, and you know why I don't worry about it? Because my warranty is going to be with the guys at Jay's. If I have a problem, I would go to the guys at Jay's and say, "Can you fix it?" So I don't know about the warranty on a 10-point. That's an excellent question. Mickey says, "Have you had trouble with critters eating your blind, and how would you keep them away?" Emil says his 10-point is 10 years old, and maybe Emil, the problems I'm hearing about with 10 points, maybe they are from the newer bows. Maybe those older bows are rock solid like yours. Hey, Gunsmith Show, he's had great kills with his Killer Instinct crossbow. See, I knew that I would hear from both sides here. Critters eating your blind. The only critter that has ever eaten one of my blinds before, and they didn't eat it, they just chewed on it, was a bear. Bears will routinely come up to a blind, check it out, sniff it, push it in, chew on it, put teeth marks in it, but that just gives it character. They're not really looking to eat it. I've never had a problem with squirrels or possums or porcupines or anything eating them. So I don't know how you'd keep them away because I've never had a problem. Johnny Bowler, 10-point for life. 10-point is for the life of the bow. We took my dad's old one, telling you, from 15 years ago, and they fixed it for free. Well, that's not a bad warranty. Now, the thing about 10-point, they are a family-owned company based out of Ohio. The only good things that come out of Ohio are 10-point, their deer, and the Piles family from Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters. Tommy, Wicked Ridge from 10-point. My wife has one. The limb snapped. Jay's replaced at the cost of 10-point. Only thing we paid for was new strings. Randy says 10-point warranty is limited lifetime, Mike. Raven. I looked at a Raven very closely, Chris. I mean, Raven was in my top two. It was going to be Raven 10-point. And when I walked into Jay's that evening to buy my bow, I didn't know which it was going to be, and it came down to price. And they had a 10-point there that was actually the previous year's model, so I could get a little bit better price on it. And that's why I went 10-point over Raven. I got a better price on it. I think you'd be fine with both bows. Mickey says something got both mine and Brad's. Like a little something, like a little critter chewing on it, Mickey? Tim, good morning. How are you? By the way, and I'm surprised, nobody sent me a card. Nobody brought me a cake. Nobody brought me a case of beer. Nobody brought me a bottle of Maker's Mark. And yesterday was a really big day for me. Yesterday was my stroke anniversary. It was the 1-year anniversary of my stroke. It would have gone unnoticed had I not posted it. I'm really disappointed in you, my friends. Very disappointed. Here's who's coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. First, Scott Keatsman of Linwood Taxidermy joins me. Then, Brian Farmer from the Hunt Michigan Collaborative and Nick Grillo from Michigan Brand Meats. In our second hour, Alan Perry talks about using tracking dogs to recover fatally wounded whitetails, plus Justin Tomei of MUCC. The Ask Avery question this week is still up in the air, actually. I have reached out to a couple of people on a couple of different questions, no answers yet, so I might tap dance through that segment. And in our third hour, Mark Martin, a member of the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, talks about fall fishing. I suspect we'll talk about deer hunting in the sand dunes, and we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. Okay, Chris loves his ravens. Okay. Tim, good morning. Johnny says his raven has been awesome. I'm not talking about the raven. I'm not talking down about the ravens at all. Porcupine. I don't know how anybody got any ideas how to keep a porcupine out of your blind from chewing on it? I've never had that happen, so I don't know. Tim says his family has 3 10-points. Brian says ravens cost more than his first 2 vehicles. Good morning, James. How are you? Chris from Kansas says the only thing I have problems with the ground blinds is finding a place so the snakes will not turn it. Which turn into walnut. They do like ground blinds. I have had a problem with garter snakes while turkey hunting. when it's still cold in the spring, they will crawl into your blind because it's warmer. I was out one morning turkey hunting. I had a blind all set up, and I went out there, got my chair set up. I set my coffee thermos next to me. I'm in there about a half hour. I reached down to grab my thermos, and I touched something, and it's like, that's not my thermos. And then it moved. I knew immediately what it was. I let out a scream like a 10-year-old girl. I jumped up, knocked the blind over, and ran away because it was a garter snake.
30 seconds.
Porcupines love plywood on deer blinds, anything with glue in it. All right, Johnny, see you tonight, buddy.
15 seconds.
Same thing, Tommy. I'm with you, buddy.
10 seconds.
All right, Charlie Rude just walked in. He's taking over, putting me to work. Yes, Charlie Rude, that is so rude.
Ready or not?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
1.
Yeah. Start. And then there goes my clock. Paul said, I keep finding a hole in the blind when I get into my blind. Cliff, you should be in the blinds right now. Mapes says, Josh Mapes, a blue racer coiled inside the foam of a tree stand seat 20 feet up. Oh, didn't like finding that in the dark. You just creeped me out to the nth degree. Oh, Josh. Honestly. I mean, if I had any hair on the back of my neck, it would have stood up. And I just got goosebumps when you described that, Josh. Thank you. Thank you very much. How heavy is the 10-point Ross? It's pretty heavy. It's pretty heavy. Good morning, Steve. How are you? Congrats on that beautiful buck. All right, I got to go to work, my friends. Have a good day. See you tonight. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome. Welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan, and so glad to have you along with us, especially right now, because you got a lot of things you could be doing. You got a lot of really cool things in the outdoors, in the woods, in the field, on the water. And the fact that you have chosen to tune in or download or stream or whatever and hear my voice right now, thank you. I do certainly appreciate that. What happened to Rocktober? Where did that month go? It seems like it was just last week when I was saying, hey, welcome to the month of Rocktober. As you are listening to the broadcast version of this show, Rocktober's gone. We're now in November. But that's not a bad month either, right? Because November, the first 2 weeks of November, especially that first week of November, the whitetail rut, and then followed by the opening day of the firearm deer season. There are worse things that could happen in a month, right? The whitetail rut, that magical time in the woods when the whitetail buck's testosterone level increases and they become a little less wary. You might see them walking, day walkers, they call them. You might see a buck that for the entire year has only shown himself after dark on your trail cameras. You might see him walking right in the middle of the day now because he's got one thing in his mind, and that's does. And your odds, I think, and I'm not an expert, but I mean, come on, this is common sense, right? I think your odds of shooting a nice buck are probably better right now in the next 2 weeks, especially week and a half, 2 weeks, than they are any other time of year, because the bucks are up and they're moving and they're chasing and they're out there during the daytime. Now, if you're bow hunting, now this is before the firearm season, if you're bow hunting and the bucks are chasing, that can be a challenge because you might see a nice buck, but he's just running by you. You're going to hear him coming through the leaves, crunch, 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 crunch. And maybe if you're really, really lucky, you'll hear a grunt. And then crunch, 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 crunch. And then you see the doe, and she's looking over her shoulder, and she's taking off because she's not ready yet, and that buck's right behind her, and boom, they're gone. So you got to see him, but you didn't get a shot. But every once in a while, you'll see a nice buck out cruising by himself. You might get him to stop, or he might stop on his own. Or for some reason, the heavens might smile on you. Mother Nature might grace you with her goodness. And that doe will just stop for no reason right there in front of you with a buck behind her. It's like, okay, this is why we hunt. This is why we deer hunt. One of the many reasons why we deer hunt. For me, I'm not as hardcore as I used to be. I'm not as intense as I used to be. A lot of that comes with age. A lot of that comes with just doing it long enough that, I don't think I am as intense with anything in the outdoors as I used to be. But that doesn't mean that I enjoy it any less. Intensity is, and I'll use this example. When you're young, and I'll use deer hunting as an example, but this applies to everything in the outdoors, hunting or fishing. When you're young, you go out there and it's like, okay, I don't know anything about this. I just want to learn, and I want to take my first deer. I don't care what it is. I want to take my first deer. So then you take your first deer. And maybe it's a small buck, or maybe it's a doe. And you say, now I want to shoot a buck, or I want to shoot a bigger buck. And then that becomes your goal. You hit that goal, and then you're good. Until you say, I want to shoot, say, a whole bunch of does now and a couple of big bucks. So your goals just keep increasing throughout your life as your skill level increases. And the intensity back in those years can be something. I mean, you eat, sleep, dream, think about this outdoor passion. And then you get a little older, and you realize it is just as important as ever. However, you enjoy it. You being me, Avery, I enjoy it in different ways. For me now, it's the experience that is the experience. Just being out there. And I'll tell you what, this last week really brought this home. Last week was my stroke anniversary. The 1-year anniversary of my stroke. And just let me take this opportunity to talk about this for a second, because a lot of people have strokes and don't know it. And they go on and they forget about it. Sometimes that can be a real problem. In my case, I knew something was up. I was walking out to the mailbox. I felt like the right side of my brain collapsed. I didn't fall to the ground, but I almost did. My balance was off. My vision was off. I was able to stumble into the house. I got into a chair. My wife, Denise, said, "What's wrong?" I said, "I don't know." She looked at me and said, "I'm calling the ambulance." And I didn't fight her this time because I knew something was wrong. Vision was gone. Paralysis on the right side, droopiness on the right side, dragging my arm, dragging my leg. It was obvious something happened, and before too long, it was pretty obvious what it was. They got me into the hospital. They gave me the cocktail, the miracle cocktail, which is the clot-busting drug. And within a few hours, and in the hospital, I was in rough shape. I mean, when I hear the stories about what I was like in the hospital, not knowing my name, quoting Bible verses when they asked me questions, it was pretty bad. They gave me the cocktail. Within a few hours, man, I was back. I wasn't completely back, but it was obvious I was going to make it. So if you think you are having a stroke, or if you think you see someone who is having a stroke, don't waste time. Call the ambulance, call the paramedics, get them to the hospital. Hopefully you can get there in time to get that miracle drug, that clot-busting drug. It's not, they can't use it for all types of strokes, but for me it was perfect. So let my experience be a lesson to you. Okay, so having said that, these days, I'm just happy to be in the woods. Would I love to shoot a big buck this year? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to happen? No. No, I don't. Do I think I'm even going to get a shot at a 2.5-year-old buck or bigger this year? No. Doesn't keep me from going. If it does happen, it's like, woohoo, outstanding. But just being out there, and I did the Charlie Rude show on WSTW last week, and we were talking about this. Looking forward to the opening day of firearm season. I will be out there. My son James will be out there. My grandson Trent will be out there. My granddaughter Addison will be out there. That's enough reason for me right there to go, more than enough reason. And, hopefully they will see deer and shoot deer. And if I get a chance, great. If not, it's okay. It's okay. Just being out there and continuing this history, continuing this tradition. Speaking of continuing, the problem with the beavers continues. It's really cool when you look at the pond behind the house the first time you see those beavers and go, oh, we got beavers back there. And then in my mind, it was like 5 seconds like, uh-oh, we got problems. And yeah, when I had the brush cleaned out behind the house, the beavers zeroed in on the trees. I had like 7 trees left standing. Intentionally, not anymore. Beavers took them down. And I found their house, their lodge. You can see it on an island out there. And it's like a straight shot from the island to my backyard. And now there's a pile of sticks building up next to the lodge, which is their food supply, which means they're hunkering down, getting ready for winter. Hopefully, by the time we talk next week, there will be 1 or 2 beavers less in the pond. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, taxidermist Scott Keatsman of Linwood Taxidermy talks about preserving your hunting memories. When I go downstairs and look at my mounts, it's like I can remember each one of those animals vividly. A great way to remember those outdoor experiences. Then Brian Farmer of the Hunt Michigan Collaborative. What is that? I don't know. We're going to find out. Plus Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand. They've got a new product coming out. And I want to see how Nick's fall bow hunting is going. Nick is a hardcore hunter. In our second hour, Alan Perry talks about the use of tracking dogs to recover fatally wounded whitetails. Then Justin Tomei of MUCC checks in. This week's Ask Avery segment, I have a couple of questions out there right now that would be good Ask Avery segments, but I don't have answers yet. So if I get those answers before then, that'll be the topic. And if not, maybe I'll just tap dance for that 7 minutes. In our third hour, we're talking fall fishing with Mark Martin. I suspect we'll also talk about deer hunting the sand dunes as well. And we're going to wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Miner. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I would love to hear from you. Send me your pictures. Don't send me your pictures in a social media message. Send them to me in a good old-fashioned email, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Scott Keatsman of Linwood Taxidermy right here on Outdoor Magazine. All right, my friends, have a good day. I'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock, for another edition of Wednesday Night Live.